All right, let's get into it. Today, we're talking about one of Portugal's most fascinating legends, a guy known as Zé do Telhado. He's this larger-than-life character, a name that's been whispered in stories for generations.
You know, it always starts somewhere personal, doesn't it? Just like this. Imagine seeing this weird black and white house as a kid, and your dad tells you, yeah, a famous bandit used to live there. That's how a legend really takes root. Not in some stuffy history book, but in stories tied to real places you can actually see.
And that leads us to the big question, right? Who was the actual person behind this larger-than-life myth of the Portuguese Robin Hood?
So, let's start with that house, the place where the legend kinda lives. Before we get to the man himself, let's really nail down the myth he's so famous for.
Okay, so here's the rundown. His real name? José Teixeira da Silva, but pretty much nobody calls him that. He's Zé do Telhado, the leader of a band of outlaws. And his whole deal was simple, but man, was it powerful. He robbed the rich and gave the money to the poor. The classic Robin Hood story, right? Through and through.
But this is where the story takes a turn you probably wouldn't expect. See, Zé do Telhado didn't start out as a criminal, not even close. His story actually begins on the battlefield as a celebrated war hero.
He was born into a pretty humble family and joined the army when he was just 18. And he wasn't just some grunt either. He was a passionate fighter in Portugal's messy civil wars, and even became a leader in a huge popular uprising. This was a guy fighting for what he believed in, a man of real principle.
And he was really good at it. So good, in fact, that he was given this, the Order of the Tower and Sword. This is the absolute highest military honor you can get in Portugal. We're talking the equivalent of the Medal of Honor. This guy was a national hero.
So how does a guy go from that to this? It's a crazy shift, right? On one side, you've got Sergeant Teixeira da Silva, a decorated war hero honored by his country. On the other, Zé do Telhado, a notorious outlaw hunted by that same country. Well, the switch flipped when his side lost a political power struggle. All of a sudden, the celebrated hero was an outcast, kicked out of the army with absolutely nothing.
And this wasn't just about him. He had a family. He had 5 kids he needed to support. So here's this hero, totally abandoned by the very country he fought for, and he's getting desperate.
And it's that desperation that really gives birth to the legend. When he couldn't provide for his family the legal way, he took all those military skills he had and put them to use in a new line of work. And his strategy was brilliant, really. It was a pretty simple 4-step process. He and his crew would go after wealthy homes and carriages. They'd steal the goods. But, and this is the key part, they'd share what they stole with the poor folks in the area. This wasn't just being nice, it was smart. It bought him loyalty. The people would protect him, hide him from the authorities. He built his own safety net.
And the stories about him, wow, they just spread like wildfire. Like this one. There was a poor couple who couldn't get married because they couldn't afford the priest's fee. So Zé do Telhado supposedly shows up and, shall we say, persuades the priest to do the wedding anyway. It's tales like that that turned a simple thief into a genuine folk hero.
But, you can't stay on the run forever. After years of outsmarting the law, they finally caught up with them. But what happened after he was caught? Well, that's what really cemented his legend for all time.
So in 1859, after 7 long years as Portugal's most wanted man, it was all over. They caught him trying to escape to Brazil. The outlaw's wild ride was finally done. Or so everyone thought.
Now get this, because this is just an incredible twist of fate. In prison, who does he end up sharing a cell with? None other than Camilo Castelo Branco, one of the most famous writers in Portuguese history. Camilo was just captivated by his story. He wrote all about him, turning Zé do Telhado into a literary icon, the official, undisputed Portuguese Robin Hood forever.
Of course, the government's view was a little less romantic. While the people saw a hero, the official charge sheet listed 11 major crimes.
And for those crimes, the punishment was harsh. 15 years. 15 years of exile in a penal colony in Africa. This was supposed to be it, the end of the story.
But Zé do Telhado's life had one last incredible chapter left to write. What happened to him in exile was something nobody, especially not the authorities who sent him there, could have ever predicted.
Just look at this timeline. It's wild. Instead of just fading away in some prison camp, he totally reinvents himself. In Angola, he becomes a successful merchant.
dealing in rubber, wax, ivory, the whole shebang. He gets remarried, has 3 more kids, and builds a completely new, legitimate life. The famous outlaw didn't die in a shootout. He died of smallpox at 57, a respected businessman.
I mean, what a life. Decorated soldier to notorious outlaw to successful merchant. It's a story that sounds like it's straight out of a movie, almost too incredible to be true.
And that brings us to this final thought. You can't really argue with it, can you? This story has everything. You've got heroism, betrayal, rebellion, and then this completely unexpected redemption at the end. It's just an epic life.
So when you boil it all down, his story kind of forces you to ask a really tough question. What is the line between a criminal and a folk hero? Is it about why they do what they do, how they do it, or is it really just about who gets to tell their story in the end? Definitely something to chew on.